Hi everyone, Chris here with another of ENGWE's bikes. This is a model here that has really evolved compared to what I used to review from them, their earlier models. They've got a lot of brand components in this, which is great to see. It's one of their most expensive bikes yet too, as a result. TechTablets brakes, 180mm, Bafang mid-drive motor, it's the M200 with up to 65 Newton meters of torque, 250 watts. And a Gates carbon belt drive to this, and the hub on the rear. This is very interesting because it's also from Bafang and it's got 3 internal gears which are controlled automatically. Now the bike will give us assistance up to 25 kilometers per hour, so it's sticking with EU laws there, and a range that Bafang claim of, if you're in the sport mode, of 150 kilometers up to 260, which is crazy, with the eco mode being used with this mid-drive motor. Now the battery is using Samsung cells, which is great to see, more brand components here. And you can see it's very easy to remove. This is 19.2 amp hours. We even have a dropper seat post with the Sealy Royale seat that this bike has. So typical video of mine, I will run through the bike in detail with my road tests and let you know my overall opinion and what kind of range you can expect out of the ENGWE P275 Pro. The P275 does use CST tires. Now these are 27.5 inches by 2.4 inches wide. So they don't have a lot of depth to the tread. They do have a reflective sidewall, which is very good for safety. As you can see now, that's going to reflect back, especially any cars that approach you from the side will see those sidewalls, so very good for safety. TechTablets brand of brakes, hydraulic, 180mm, and you'll see later from my braking test that the performance is good. These are above average in terms of braking performance. You can stop really well, and it's good that they went with a known brand. Now, there is no quick release here on the front, but I do prefer this. No one can go along and just remove your front tire and steal it. The Bafang mid-drive motor is a M200 model. Now this has a 250 watts on average, which does peak just over 350 watts, 36 volt system, and it does deliver 65 Newton meters of torque, and it uses a torque sensor. The pedals that they've selected, ENGWE, are Wellgo model pedals, and you can see we have some rubber here for grip, and they're using an alloy frame with reflectors built into them. The kickstand does support the 25 kilo weight of the bike just fine. I've had no issues with it. Now I do like the seat. It's nice and wide, very comfortable. It's from Sealy Royale, so another known brand, and it's dropper seat post style, but you don't have the control on your handlebar, but just under the seat here. So you press here to raise it up, and if you press and then push down, requires a little bit of effort, you can then drop it down. Now when you're riding, if you stand up on the pedals, you can reach down and then use that lever to get that seat up a bit higher. So it's pretty much like a dropper seat post, really. Included with the bike, we do get this bike rack. Now it can handle up to 25 kilos, which is very good. The rear light is not located at the back here. You could also buy one and screw one into place that operates on batteries, but it's not a hardwired rear tail light, unfortunately. But they do include this one, which comes with the seat. So it's a very small LED style light. You have a press in style button. So pressing that in, you can see it's on. A little hard to see because I'm in the sun right now, but it does work well at night. And if you press it again, it is then flashing, which will make that built-in battery last a little bit longer. And pressing the third time, that turns it off. We get a powerful headlight at the front that in fact contains 2 units there focused at different points. The light coverage is excellent, very good for nighttime riding, and you can turn this on and off just via the controls, which I'll show you now. Up and down our pedal assist levels, press and hold, you get the headlight on and off option, and then press and hold with the down pedal assist level, that is the walk mode that it has, and this is our on and off, and then to cycle through the trip and odometer and other menus with the screen. Now, the feel of these buttons is very good, and we get 5 pedal assist levels, or just completely off. Now the screen is from Bafang. It is very clear, but it's a little strange how it's to one side. It's mounted on the right side of the handlebars, and I like things being centered and symmetrical, so it's a little off to me. Otherwise, a very good screen. You can see it really clearly. So trip information right here, battery life in percentage. Do like this, not just the 5 bars that we typically see. Your pedal level that you are in as you go through, you can see that is the Sport Plus mode, that's the boost, and the lowest mode there is Eco. That one there is Turbo. So there's 5 modes in total, and nice and clear display there of your speed. The grips that they've used are lock grips, so they do not spin around, and the brake levers from TechTablets, very nice feel to them, being hydraulic. We get a bow included with the bike, and it looks a little modern, the design, but it does work well and it's quite loud. The battery and its location really does dominate the design of this bike. It is large, it's almost 20 amp hours, and it uses Samsung cells, so yet again, brand components. Really good to see that ENGWE is doing this. And just under this flap here, if I don't get blown away, you'll find we have there the lock for it, okay? So we've got where to charge it, and then this is where you put the key in to unlock it, and then you can slide that battery out completely. So removable. Although the light is just in the way here of the seat, so that's why I need to raise it up a little more, and then I can remove that battery. Now that capacity in watt hours is 691.2 watt hours, and it is exactly 19.2 amp hours, and it will take about 3 to 4 hours to fully charge this. The voltage is 36 volts. This bike uses a Bafang 3-speed automatic hub, and it changes about 15 kilometers, I've noticed, from the first to second gear, and then at around 20 kilometers it goes into its third gear, the top gear, and this is just so much better than having a single speed carbon belt drive. That's the downside to them, is they just normally have only the single gear. That is it, but at least we get now 3 gears, and it makes a big difference, especially on the climbs. Now it is all automatic. It does not require power either, so you can ride along with the bike without a battery or with no battery power, and it will change those gears. You feel the changes, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later in this review. There is this gap in the frame too, so you're able to remove this part. If you later need to remove the rear wheel, you can take the belt off. The bike's mud guards are made out of metal, painted with this matte finish. The welds on the bike and overall everything is of high standard, high quality, really good coming from ENGWE. This is one of their best bikes yet in terms of build quality and finish. And onto that ride quality, I'm sure a lot of you are interested in, of course, what that rear hub, auto hub, is like from Bafang, with its 3 internal gears there, and it automatically controls that. And it is interesting. I would have liked manual control on it, but it does seem to do a reasonably good job. So when you start out at lower speeds, you start pedaling, it'll get itself into that lower gear, and based off what speeds you're doing, it will then change. And do you feel that change? Yes, you do feel it. Sometimes it's quite noticeable, other times it isn't. And is it always in the correct gear? Well, most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time. Like now I just felt it changed. As I got up to about 16, 17 kilometers, I felt it change there, and then it gets into its highest gear, which is now at 20, and it makes a big difference. This makes the riding a lot more efficient having the gears. Otherwise it would be just a single speed like you typically have with a belt drive. Now the torquey mid-drive motor, 65 Newton meters of torque, is quite good. It's got plenty of power, and as long as you're in that lower gear for climbs, as you see later on, it's not that bad. But if you do have a lot of climbs around, I would definitely go for the version with the 9-speed Shimano gears. If you have a lot of steep climbs, you're going to want that lower gear still. Even though it's got the 3 speeds in this hub, it is good, you'll need those gears. So for example, pulling out of an intersection can be a little bit tricky with just a single gear. And the police just let me in there. It would have been nice to have a throttle, but unfortunately that's not legal here in Spain to use a throttle. And there we go, I felt those gear shifts, the 2 shifts now to put me into the highest gear, even with this minor little climb here. And again, it was smooth, but you do feel those shifts. So the top speed, because of the gearing, is very good for a belt drive e-bike. And of course, when you go over 25 kilometers per hour, doesn't give you any assistance, but I can get it up to around 32 kilometers per hour on the flat, and downhill up to about 40. Okay, so this is going to be quite interesting, my climb test spot. Now you want to prep the rear hub motor to get into the lowest gear. So by doing so, ride slow, and don't just stop when you're driving fast, and stop pedaling, that is, because it won't be able to change down into the lowest gear. So I'm in the lowest gear now, in the boost mode, which is 505, and this is a lot better than I thought it would be. I don't want to ride too fast because it's got the possibility of then shifting up into the second gear or into the third top gear, which I really don't like. But this is surprising me. A 20-degree climb, mid-drive motor certainly does help. 250 watts, peaks at I believe 375 watts, and a 65 newton meters of torque. Means this climb is relatively easy. I'd say I'm putting in about half the effort. The motor is doing the rest, but this is superior to other carbon belt drive e-bikes I have tested out. It's a climb so much better than you think. And as I mentioned, if you've got a lot of big climbs, then you want to get the version with the 9-speed Shimano gears set up. So how good is that range? Is it anywhere close to what their claims are, which seem pretty outrageous, right? 150 kilometers in the sport mode, eco mode up to 260. Well, it is very good. For 10% loss of battery, I covered 26.5 kilometers, approximately 26, 27. Really good out of this. And because when you ride over 25 kilometers per hour, the motor is then off. It's not giving you any assistance. And what really helps is that internal hub, those 3 gears. So it gets you into a much higher gear than you'd typically have with a belt-driven bike, and that's really going to aid you for those long rides on the flat. As a city bike, a commute bike, and with the belt drive, I recommend this for areas which are mostly flat. However, they've got the option, of course, of having the 9-speed Shimano gears if you did need that, and even a step-through frame design if you didn't like this style of the bike. Now, the bike's finish is excellent. The welds you don't see because they've ground them right down, and the paint finish, this matte grey, looks really good. They've got other color combinations. The bike is a little unusual looking where the battery is located, but the ease of just being able to remove this so quick is great. You can just simply slot it out like so. And that they've included this dropper seat post style to it, making it a bit easier too to get the seat out of the way when you do need to remove that battery. It's probably part of their reasoning of putting the dropper seat post in this. Now I want to talk a little bit more about that internal hub there from Bafang with the 3 speeds. It goes through those speeds really good in the auto mode, but you do feel those shifts, and I wish there was a way to manually control it, because sometimes if I have a little bit of a climb, maybe I don't want to be in the second gear that it'll put me in based on the speed using a speed sensor. That's my only real complaint about this bike. The price of it is around about 1,800, 1,700 euros, which I don't think is bad at all considering brand components. Tektro brakes, Sealy Royale seats, Samsung battery cells, Bafang mid-drive motor, Bafang rear hub with the 3 gears in there, Gates carbon belt drive, Welgo pedals, and CST tires. So there's a lot of brand components in this, which is very good. All up, an excellent bike here from ENGWE. And thank you so much for watching my review here of the P275 Pro.